And great. Okay, so I'll say again, just for the recording, this is Caitlin Saposi-Belknap, Move to Amend's National Director, and this is Jessica Munger, our new program coordinator, and she's listening in today. So it looks like everyone can hear me, and we're good to get going. So today we're going to talk about Move to Amend, and the assumption is that those of you on the call here have not been active with Move to Amend yet, and we're giving you an introduction. And I wanted to check as we get started here to just get a sense of how y'all found out about this event, because some of you are coming from one of our partner organizations, and some of you are probably here from Move to Amend. So on your screen, there should be a poll with questions about how you know about Move to Amend. Just fill that in. So it looks like people are still voting. Give me a minute. All right. I'm curious, for those of you who put other in the chat, do you want to just say what other was in terms of how you found out about this webinar? And there's a few of you who said that you found out about it not from Pachamama Alliance or Move to Amend's emails. And, oh, great. Cool. Good to know. So I want to welcome the folks from the Pachamama Alliance Up to Us program. We're really excited about the partnership with Pachamama, and this was kind of the first try at bringing in folks who are doing the Up to Us intensive training and into Move to Amend. So want to also hear your feedback about that, because we're still working with Pachamama to figure out how to do that best. So let's get started here, though. Obviously, you should be hearing audio. You can also use the phone number, but you only want to use one, the computer or the phone, for audio. And if you've got questions, you can chat them in the side there. And if you have technical difficulties, we're not in a position to troubleshoot them now, but this whole session today will be recorded, and the video will be made available on our website, and we'll send a link to everybody who RSVP'd. So if you're having difficulty, we would be happy to make sure that you get to see the recording and catch you next time. Oh, I didn't realize you all couldn't see the results of the poll. I thought that you could. So there were about probably like 60% of the folks who came here from Move to Amend, and about 40, or maybe it was like more like 35 who were from Pachamama Alliance, and then a few other folks came in through other ways. So Move to Amend's mission is that we're a coalition of, at this point now, hundreds of organizations and hundreds of thousands of people. There's over 340-something thousand people who have signed our motion to amend. And our agenda is to create social and economic justice and corporate rule and build a vibrant democracy that's accountable to the people, not corporate interests. And I'll talk in a second about our amendment campaign, which is obviously like the main thing that we're doing right now. But some of the core values that we put forward, that we strive to uphold and that we hold each other accountable to, are responsibility, both personally and organizationally, transparency, community. We put a real emphasis on movement building as the way that change happens, and a commitment to anti-oppression within ourselves and our workplaces and our communities and the work and all the work that we do. And what that means is that we currently live in a system where there are many, many layers of oppression, whether we're talking about racism or sexism, classism, ableism, and our work, if we're committed to justice, should be about trying to undo all of those oppressions and seeing how they're all linked together, and that we don't want to help perpetuate them as we're striving for making this country the democracy that we were promised that it was, but it's never really been. So our goals and what we focus on are the We the People Amendment, which is an amendment. You can find it by going to wethepeopleamendment.org or just movetoamend.org/amendments. You can see the text of it. But what it basically says is that corporations and other artificial entities, any entity that's recognized and created by government, is therefore subordinate to the people, and only people have constitutional rights, and any other rights and privileges and powers that these government-created entities have are subject to the people, and through legislation and our elected representatives, or through direct democracy when we pass legislation through the initiative process, or whatever we might think of in the future. And also that money is property, not speech, and therefore spending money in elections and in the political process can be regulated and must be disclosed to the people. So that's the gist of our amendment. It's in some ways very, very simple, and obviously in terms of what its implications are, though, it's vast. And we really feel as though these two doctrines that were created by the Supreme Court and concocted by the ruling elite to help prop up a system where only some people have most of the power and most of the resources. These two doctrines are critical and fundamental to just about anything else that we're trying to accomplish. And if corporations have constitutional rights, and if money is speech, then it really makes democracy impossible. And by democracy, we mean the people governing, making the decisions that affect us, and setting the policies and the culture and society that we want. So that is obviously huge goal, and it's integral to our name, Move to Amend. But another really important component that has been part of Move to Amend from the very beginning is that we want to provoke discussion and organizing about how to make real the promise of American democracy through constitutional renewal. So it is actually not Move to Amend's perspective that our amendment is the only thing that is needed to make our democracy real and functional for all people and the rest of in our country, and potentially the implications are also global, right? Because the United States and the corporations that run this country really run the world too. So it's important that the process and the methods that we use to pass our amendment set us up for further discussions, further wins, and that we've built a base of power so that we can hold our win and make sure that the amendment isn't just words on paper, which actually, it is until we make it so through changing laws, through changing culture, changing society, changing assumptions, changing the political process and the legal system, and also that there are other reforms, other new ways to look at how power should be structured, who should have rights and what are. Our Constitution is premised really on a foundation of prioritizing property rights and the idea that there are other human rights, like a right to clean air, or a right for a river to be healthy, or a right to housing, or food, or just basic needs being met. All of those things are actually lacking in our Constitution, and we really want to be provoking questions and discussions about why that is so, and perhaps why that should not be the case, and that actually if we were going to build the society that we wanted, we would be a lot more clear about the fundamental things that people need, and they would be built into our foundational law. So that's another component that is intrinsic to Move to Amend, and sometimes the amendment piece is really kind of what people hear first, and then they stop there. And we really want to be clear and transparent about the fact that we think that that's only a first step, really. It's a huge step, and it will make a really big difference. But we don't see it as the end-all be-all. The end-all be-all for us is making real democracy happen in this country so that it's possible in the rest of the world, too. If folks want to chat questions as we go, you're welcome to do that, and I can kind of keep an eye cover, and then I might just skip over it, and there definitely will be time for questions at the end, but I don't mind being interrupted, to peek over there. We'll see how I do on that, but we'll try. Our strategy for this really big plan is to build a grassroots democracy movement. And we know that we're not the only component of the U.S. democracy movement, but we take very seriously being committed to that movement, building it, connecting with the others who are working to build democracy. And we see that this is only going to be possible by building a movement. This is not actually a legislative fight. This is not about, having the right person in office or the perfect legal strategy. This is about building a movement that demands this kind of fundamental change at a core level. And this is the only way that our Constitution has been amended before. And it's the only way that we can make sure that, again, it's not just words on paper, but that it actually really is about shifting the balance of power in this country. So we put that idea of building a movement really first and foremost. And sometimes when people kind of come to this from a campaign finance entry point, which Citizens United provided us, and obviously that is what sparked Move to Amend to form. But the folks who have been doing the core work at the national level with Move to Amend, we have been working on this for decades before Citizens United. And we definitely don't see this as just kind of like a teeny little piece, and that we need to build this whole movement. And it's not just about campaign finance reform or kind of tinkering at the margins. It's a complete overhaul that's needed. We really emphasize coalition building. Move to Amend is a coalition. Sometimes that doesn't completely come through because we're really a well organized and orchestrated coalition, and so the individual organizations and players have kind of stepped back for the good of the coalition itself. But this is only going to get done by, having many people at the table, many different organizational interests, and that goes, hand in hand with the idea of building a movement. This movement has to intentionally be broad and diverse and explicitly multiracial. I would also add intergenerational too. Every movement that has been successful in this country has had those two components of being multiracial and intergenerational. And unless work is intentionally done to build bridges across race and across age and generations, it isn't going to happen, because there are so many things that divide us, some which are external and kind of intentional, like the whole construct of race itself. And then intergenerational, that's always a challenge. And so it's important that we not just say it and have it on the list, but that we actually are doing the work to learn the tools and skills necessary to build bridges, relationships, and power together across these divides, and to not allow ourselves to be divided by them, and to be inoculated against a divide and conquer strategy, which is at a low level, cultural level, being employed constantly, and that is just the culture of the United States. But as we gain power and success, it'll be used even more overtly, and we have to make sure that we've done the work to prepare for that, and not, that we can't be divided that way. We emphasize community organizing, not just activism, and I see that there's a question about what does that mean? So for us, organizing is about building power and about relationships. And not to say that activism cannot be, and people might use these two words interchangeably, but for us, that organizing is about relationships and building power, and activism, especially in this age of the internet and kind of impersonal connection, might be more about clicking a petition and not really actually getting out face to face and doing the work together to build the relationships, which can be a struggle, and that struggle is actually part of the work. And when you're successful, it's because you've built power and a base that you can, build on for the next win. And so activism to us doesn't necessarily build that base of power. And we don't necessarily think of it that way. We think of like, let's just get everybody out and have this many, numbers. And at the end, when a push comes to shove, that's not going to get it done. And if the going gets tough too, that's going to make it easy for us to be, fractured and divided. We focus on local organizing. That's a very strong principle for us. All of us who work on the national level at Move to Amend have our roots in community organizing. I sit here in Northern California at our world headquarters. We're not based in Washington, D.C. At some point, it might make sense for us to have an office in D.C., but we are actually really kind of proud of in a grassroots history and a local history, and we want to continue to build on that power that comes with that. And that's why we have the emphasis on local community groups that are really who make up Move to Amend. And I'll talk about a little bit more about that in a sec. And then just the last thing is that our primary target is the American people. And what I mean by that is as opposed to Congress. Certainly, if you're talking about amending the Constitution, there is a component of the national government that you have to interface with. But we want to be really clear that, again, this isn't about, this really being a policy. This is about building a movement. And so the target to build a movement is the American public. Movements for democracy have never come out of Washington, D.C. And in fact, we need to make sure that we build our base and our strengths such that when we move into that arena of Washington, D.C., we are powerful enough, we are organized enough that we can really demand and make sure that what we want is what happens, not some watered down, co-opted thing that kind of sounds good, or, that we are just ignored. And especially now with money so overtly with the Citizens United decision and then the McCutcheon decision just recently, so overtly being what matters in Washington, D.C., that's even more reason for us not to be delusional about how far away from democracy we are and how our leadership at the national and also in most places at the state level too is really not going to take the leadership on this. We have to do it. And we need to find other leaders, again, just with the public. And people are ready for this. But they don't necessarily know about us because of the, the consolidation and corporate ownership of the media. And so that's another reason why focusing locally where we can talk to people face to face is the only way that we're going to be able to be successful. So our structure, like I said, we emphasize local, we call our local groups local affiliates. There are 150 about local groups that are part of Move to Amend, and there are more coming on all the time. These are volunteer groups, and so they're at all different levels and stages of being organized and successful. But that is really where the bulk of the work that the national staff do is supporting our local affiliates, and they're the ones who are really the ambassadors of Move to Amend in their communities. And so when we're talking about how to get involved, I'm going to emphasize a lot joining up with a local group if there's already one in your area, or starting one up if there's not, and teaming up with other people to do that. Our national team, these are links, but they're not live if you click on them, so you'd have to copy them down, and remember this will be recorded, so don't worry too much about catching all this right now. Our national team is made up of representatives from the original groups that founded Move to Amend, and some at-large folks as well, some folks who are involved with our affiliates, and folks who are coming out of communities and organizations that we want to be partnering with too. It's a very diverse group of people. It is intergenerational. We are racially and ethnically diverse. We are in all areas of the country in terms of regions, and we really put a strong emphasis on making sure that that body is made of a really diverse group of folks. Represent organizing from all different sectors of work for social justice and peace and ecology. We also have a number of national committees, and you can go to the link there. I'm not going to run through all of them. This is we've for several years now, but we're in the process of opening them up a bit more and allowing people to come right on to the national committees as opposed to only working at the local level. The only reason for the delay was just to make sure that we had our ducks in a row in terms of structure and we were solid enough to support that. So if you do want to check out the national committees, you will see that there's an application process if you're interested in participating in any of them. We do prioritize folks who are involved with our local affiliates because we want to have those voices in the national work, but we also welcome folks with expertise that would be helpful to the work we're doing at the national level. And then there are, like I said, hundreds of organizations that have signed on to Move to Amend as endorsers, and a number of partners that we work closely with, including the Pachamama Alliance, but several others too that we team up to do projects together. So some of the programs for 2014 that I want to highlight for you are our campaign to pass community resolutions. We and really the local folks on the ground in over 500 communities, actually that should say over 500, local resolutions have passed to date. And the purpose of these resolutions, they're non-binding statements of support for the amendment. And the value of this tactic is that it provides an opportunity to have a platform to talk about the amendment in a campaign way. So you're pushing for a victory along the way. It's really important as we're, a longer term effort. This isn't going to happen tomorrow, that we have benchmarks and milestones that we can work towards to keep people engaged and to keep people involved. And so the resolutions provide that. They're a great way to do public education, so and to involve local media, the public at large with forums, even if, or even just the city council meetings themselves, and then also to educate our elected officials at the local level. And while we're talking about a national amendment, the people who are in local office right now are actually the people who are most likely to be in state houses and in Congress over the next, 10 or so years. Elected officials, if they like it and they're good at it, oftentimes they move up into other offices, and making sure they understand this issue and that they're with us early on is really important. Whenever possible, we actually do these resolutions directly through citizen initiatives. Not every state has the initiative process, and so that's not possible everywhere, but there are dozens and dozens of places that have not just gone to their city council and asked them to speak for the community, but actually taken the issue to the community directly through a vote of the people. And every single time that our measures have been on the ballot, they have passed. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about conservative communities or liberal communities, rural, urban, small, large, they always pass. Most of the time they pass with a very strong majority of 60%, 70%, sometimes 85, 88%, these measures are passing. So what that reinforces, again, is that this is a real common sense issue, and that when in front of the public, the answer of what should happen is really clear. So that's very, very powerful, and it's a great opportunity to do education, to do all this citizens initiatives. So we really strongly encourage those. There are lots of communities right now that are working on collecting signatures to get measures on the ballot for November this year, and this will continue to be a program that we prioritize because it really has been very successful at getting the word out. And then as we are successful with the local resolutions, the next step is to pass these resolutions through statewide ballot initiatives, again, in the states that allow for the initiative process. So you can get more information about resolutions at the link down there. This is an election year, so Pledge to Amend is a campaign that we have going in an ongoing way, but in an election year like this, we focus on candidates, not just elected officials, but people who are running for office, local, state, and federal folks, and then also, people who are in office too, to get them to support Move to Amend as they're running for office, when they're in a position to where they are the one time maybe that they're actually asking the public what our perspective is and what we think And again, at the local level is actually kind of where we have the most sway. But because polling is right in line with what we're ballot initiatives, that the majority of people really support where Move to Amend is on this issue, this is the kind of thing where we actually can get folks on record. And so alone, but with the media there, or our own media if they're not, with a camera, and to find out what their position is. And I'm sure everyone remembers when Mitt Romney at the Iowa State Fair last presidential election, was getting heckled and basically got into a thing where he ends up saying, "Corporations are people, my friend," and it's picked up by Colbert and The Daily Show and all over. And the people who were heckling were Move to Amend volunteers who were out to try and get Romney to do exactly that. So we need to, find more and more opportunities to where this becomes the issue that is being talked about in these elections. And so we'll be really launching this campaign this summer and in preparation for the election season that will happen in the fall. And then the last thing is kind of on that second prong of Move to Amend. A number of organizations that are connected with the U.S. Social Forum process, and that is a event and / movement / coalition that is ongoing, but there have been 2 U.S. social forums that have been held, and there will be a third one in 2015. And basically, it's almost every grassroots organization that is working on social, economic justice, or environmental justice issues coming together. And there were 10,000 people in Atlanta and 15,000 in Detroit, and hopefully more next year for the next one. And what's very exciting about the U.S. Social Forum is the leadership is people who are most impacted and most affected by the oppressive systems that we have now. So people in poverty that work with those constituencies are really that they use are called these People's Movement Assemblies, which is a way to have a very participatory discussion that is meant to lead to action and decisions about taking action together at a community level or on a specific issue. And some really powerful things have come out of the People's Movement Assemblies that have happened around the country so far on a lot of different issues. And what we're going to do is work with a number of groups in the Bay Area, and oops, I'm sorry, that actually shouldn't say Tucson. It should say Philadelphia, my mistake. It was Tucson originally, but now it's Philadelphia, Salt Lake City, and Portland, Oregon this summer and fall to hold People's Movement Assemblies on how to codify our movement demands constitutionally. If we really had the Constitution that made it so that anything that we're fighting for, we could, because we had really was the fundamental law, what would those core principles be? And to imagine a new constitution that is based on democracy and human rights and ecological rights. And so we're really excited about this People's Movement Assembly process. It'll be kind of a pilot for us. And with these 4 events, then we'll see how they go. And the goal is that we could create a process that could be used in communities all over the country in 2015 and 2016. So there are a number of ways that you can get involved. Hosting a house party is one of the easy ways. You bring together your friends and neighbors. We have a DVD that you can show, but you can also, just have a discussion. It's kind of up to you in terms of how you want to do the format. We would be happy to have a speaker if there's somebody nearby from a local group that's with Move to Amend, or a Skype conversation with somebody nationally. There's a lot of different options. It's it's a way that folks have raised money for Move to Amend to support our grassroots work, but also to get a new group started and spread the education. A really easy thing that you can actually do individually is a project that we call Stampede to Amend, and it is exactly what it looks like. We have these stamps, and you can stamp your money, and you can also stamp all of your mail with a message that corporations are not people and money is not speech. We also have one that says not to be used for bribing politicians. And folks have also held stamp-in parties at their houses or publicly to really get the word out about this. This is something that we developed with Ben Cohen of Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream, so you may have also heard him talking about this because he is doing this project as well. And it's a great way to spread the message far and wide. We've definitely had people come back to us and say, hey, I got one of your bills and I had no idea, and how do I get involved? So it's a really easy way to help out. We also tour the country in an ongoing way. This is David Cobb, one of our key spokespeople, but there are a number of other speakers as well who have been crisscrossing the country over the last several years doing speaking events. And so if you'd like to bring a speaker to your community, at the end there'll be a survey that you can fill out and you can let us know. It's a great way to get a Move to Amend affiliate group started, and we may be coming to your state. So stay tuned. David is in Iowa right now, and then he's headed to Missouri. I will be doing a tour through Washington State in a couple weeks, and then David will be in Texas. And if you want to find out where all the places we're going, you can go to movetoamend.org/barnstorming. And then we have a goal of collecting 500,000 signatures to our motion to amend. We certainly will keep going after that. Our petition is really an organizing tool. It's a way to bring people in to Move to Amend, but we also use it when we go to elected officials to let them know that we'd like them to support our resolutions or become, signers to our amendment. And so saying, 7,000 people in your community have, can you get them to be quieter? 7,000 people in your community have passed the, have signed the motion and here are their names, shows our base of power. So one of the other easy ways that you can help Move to Amend is by spreading the word and getting people to sign our petition. You can do that through social media. You can do that through email. You can even download paper petitions and bring. So all of those things are great ways also to lead into starting a local Move to Amend group. And there's a lot of resources on our website. The first place to go is movetoamend.org/start-group right there. And you can hold an introductory meeting. You can use one of those other techniques I just mentioned, like a stamping party or a house party showing the DVD, or, if your friends and the people that maybe aren't the best people to go to organize this event, do some petitioning at your local farmers market to get some people on the list and start there. If you say that you are going to do, then we will be happy to send out an email to the other folks in your area who have signed the petition already, letting them know that there's a group forming or there's a meeting happening, and to help promote it. You also can add the event to our calendar directly, and so it'll be up there. And so if you want to do this, I recommend touching base with us right here, letting us know so that we can help you and we can use the tools that we have to help you bring in people who are near you who would want to plug in. But also encourage you to go to your own, your own supporters, your own friends, your own neighbors, and people that you interact with at work or whatever, and invite them too, because you probably have some great contacts that would be good to invite. And then once you come on and become a Move to Amend affiliate, the things that we offer, and we're always, working on improving how to support our affiliates, because that's really where the rubber meets the road from our perspective of getting this work done, is to provide organizing advice, support, and mentorship in an ongoing way. We have monthly conference calls with all affiliates. We create materials and resources on an ongoing basis, whether it's a particular campaign or just there's a lot of stuff that's already created that's part of our toolkit. If you go to movetoamend.org/toolkit, you can see all of that info. There's also a link on the front page of the site. Our affiliates also get direct access to Move to Amend's database. As I'm not familiar with any other national group that actually offers this, but again, it's in the interest of really empowering our local folks. It is a complicated tool, so we provide training for that, but we want it to be something that you can call people out of the database directly. You can send emails directly, and we'll help you learn how to do that. And then every affiliate also gets a page on Move to Amend's site, which is a way for people to find you and then for you to keep people up to date about what you're up to. So that is what we offer, and like I said, we're always kind of developing that. So if you're interested in getting involved with Move to Amend, as you can see, really the emphasis is on getting involved locally, and there may be an affiliate in your area. So if you go to our website and you click on the little map icon that says Find Move to Amend near you, you can see if there's a local group. It's important to remember that all of our local affiliates are volunteers, and so it's possible that if you reach out to them, they may not get back to you right away. That we have heard of that happening, and like I said, sometimes groups kind of ebb and flow. So if you have already tried to get in touch with somebody locally, or you do and you don't get a response, please contact our office, and we can try to help you and make sure that connection gets done. Or help get an update on what's going on with the local group. So don't get discouraged. We will plug you in and get you connected. And then also in terms of the follow-up of this call, like I said, there's a survey at the end where you can tell us what you're interested in, and we'll do a follow-up phone call to you as well. One of our interns or staff members will give you a follow-up call to talk you through some of the stuff too. But right now, does anybody have any questions about anything that I've said or about Move to Amend? And I see a couple folks wanting to know, so just to reiterate that the slides and the video from this presentation will all be sent out to everybody who RSVP'd. And it'll also be available on our website as well. So you can definitely catch those websites if you missed them. So let's see. Has any effort been made to get sponsors of other related bills to support the Move to Amend bill? Is that feasible? What, if any, objections have been made to the Move to Amend bill by sponsors of other similar bills? What objections have been made to the anticipated outcome if the Move to Amend bill were passed? And that's from Renee. So really good question. We have reached out to the other sponsors of the other bills, some more vigorously than others, kind of based on what we already know about where they stand. Like I said, the emphasis really is not as much on Congress, and so to tell you the honest truth, we were actually kind of ambivalent about having our amendment even introduced in Congress last year. We were approached by Rick Nolan, who is the sponsor, and he asked us if he could be our champion, and we were a little bit worried about maybe the mixed message that would send, that, oh, there it is in Congress. Does that mean everybody should, be focusing on that? But on the other hand, with all these other proposals out there, we wanted to be clear that ours is viable and that we're serious. And so we went the route of letting him introduce it, but we haven't been putting a lot of energy into getting co-sponsors for that, because we really do feel like it's more strategic to be focusing at the local level. In terms of objections and concerns that people have, the main thing is that I would say, folks who are part of the establishment politics oftentimes come back with, yes, there are problems, but eliminating corporate constitutional rights would goes too far, and that we can kind of tinker at the margins of the problem. Maybe the emphasis is more on money and politics for them too, and so there's a lot of education to do, and or getting new people into office who actually understand that the problem is not just about how much money is in politics. It's also about corporations being able to wield the law against the public when we try to regulate them. And that's what the crux of corporate constitutional rights is about. And so that's the main objection. There's also a concern about nonprofit corporations losing constitutional rights. There's an article on our website, if you go to the recommended reading section, talking about why it really is important that the amendment include nonprofits. But in a nutshell, it's important because groups like Citizens United are 501c4 nonprofit corporations. And so if we make an exemption for nonprofits, which is what some of the bills have that are out there proposed to do, we will basically have created a loophole that is so giant that it will probably, in effect, take a very short amount of time to render the whole thing meaningless. And so we need to include all artificial entities because it's really based on the principle that is consistent that only human beings have constitutional rights, and anything created by government, whether it's for good and we like it, or, doing something that's harmful, that's not the point. The point is that it is an artificial entity and shouldn't have constitutional rights. And the decisions about how to make distinctions between those entities or unions as well is a legislative question, something that should be done through policy, and then it's accountable to the public because it's our elected officials who make that policy. So that's the main kind of discourse that happens in disagreement with over these bills, and we have a lot of education to do of people who are in elected office to understand that we need a solution that is as important, as significant and deep as the one that we're putting forward. Has that stamping of money been cleared as legal? It is a little bit of a gray area, but the law actually says that you cannot deface currency for the purpose of taking it out of circulation, and obviously that is not our purpose. And so we do have a legal opinion on that, and certainly Ben Cohen has actually been very, very out there and in a very public way on a lot of actually kind of major media, showing that he's stamping the bills, and he hasn't run into any trouble. So it is our opinion that no one, it's not going to come back to anybody. If anything, it maybe at some point could come back to move to amend because our website is on there. But we're prepared for that. And actually it would be a great publicity opportunity if there were a lawsuit or kind of any action. But so far there has been nothing, and we're really not, defacing currency in the sense that we're trying to sabotage it or copy it or anything like that. So the legal folks that we have consulted have said that, their opinion is that it is all right. Why not just focus on the constitutional amendment? Why dilute the campaign with ill-defined words like legalized democracy? Well, our perspective is that, it's really not just about the amendment, and that the amendment is one fundamental piece, but actually telling the story of the history of this country in an accurate way means to tell the story of the fact that we've never had democracy in this country, and increasingly less so our legal system is being used against us by a ever smaller, shrinking number of people who are the ones who have the resources. And so we don't think that we can kind of shortcut this problem and dumb it down. We don't think that that's a strategic way to approach it. And so that's our perspective. Let's see what else. Nancy says, just wanted you to know that resolutions have been adopted by city and county government in Delta County, Michigan, and we're about to try to organize a county move to amend group. That's awesome. Congratulations, Nancy. And if there's any help that you need or as you're getting your group together, definitely let us know, and we'd be happy to help you if we can. Please send a list of questions you're receiving and the answers you give. Well, the answers and questions will all be in the recording that we'll make available. And if there's something else that you need, feel free to follow up on the email, and we'd be happy to figure out how to get that to you. Are you working together with Common Cause on this issue? That's Susan in Dallas. Yes and no is honest answer. There are a number of other groups that have either been working on issues of campaign finance or corporate power since before Citizens United and since Citizens United. And we try to work with all of these groups as much as possible. We are very clear, though, that we Move to Amend will not support any measure that doesn't wholly address corporate constitutional rights. And by wholly, I mean including nonprofit corporations and unions, and also that doesn't make clear that money is not speech. And so in terms of Common Cause, they're national. They don't have an amendment that they're supporting. They're actually supporting a number of them on the national level, and none of the ones that they're supporting do both of those two things wholly. So but on the other hand, they also have a number of state chapters, and what they have told their state chapters is you are free to kind of address this issue however you see fit. So in a number of places, we work very closely with Common Cause and have great partnerships in Minnesota, in Massachusetts, in Colorado. But then there are other states where the focus is more just on money and politics and not as much corporate constitutional rights. And there we try to keep an open door and work together where we can, but we don't shy away from making the distinction and making clear, because we really do think that Move to Amend's role is to be the ones to not compromise on this, and to not, especially right now, I mean, I think what happened with healthcare is a great example of why it's a terrible idea to compromise before you even start, and to settle for less than what is needed. And so we really want to make sure that doesn't happen with this issue. And if it really only becomes about money and politics, and we say that we'll address corporate constitutional rights later, we need to approach this like we might only have one opportunity for an amendment in this generation, this lifetime, and so we need to make sure that it's as powerful as it needs to be. And so, if there are groups that we have disagreement with about that, it's our job to say that in a respectful, collegial way, of course, but to also name that and to make sure that that the lesser solution isn't what comes forward. Let's see. Is stampstampede.org part of Move to Amend? That's Ben Cohen's effort on the stamping, and it's not part of Move to Amend. They're one of those kind of partner organizations that we have worked with. So we worked with Ben to launch the stamping idea, and Ben really wants to just maximize the stamping as much as possible, and that kind of makes sense from kind of where he's coming to this as, Ben Cohen. He's got the name recognition and all of that, and he's really been getting the idea out there. From our perspective, the stamping is really only valuable if there's a movement and an organization and a connection to plug people in once they find the stamped money. And so we decided to kind of each have our own ways that we're doing the money stamping, but we have but we launched it with them, and certainly, are excited about all the exposure that Ben has gotten about this issue out there. Let's see. I would hope that local groups are approaching their Congress people to push them to make public their stance on the issue, especially with the upcoming midterms. Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's what Pledge to Amend is about, is approaching people who are running for office, either for the first time or re-election, to make them take position on this issue, not just at the federal level, but at the state level too, and even the local level as well. Let's see. Is there some information on the Move to Amend website about exactly how corporations would be affected by the Move to Amend amendment? For example, if Move to Amend passes, what effect would it have on small businesses that are incorporated? Many small business owners use incorporation to protect their personal assets from frivolous lawsuits. Sure. There is, if you look in the recommended reading, which is under Learn More section of the website, there is info that addresses this. In a nutshell, the amendment itself is just a foundational platform upon which we could build new laws. So it actually, the day after the amendment passes, everything would still be the same. What would be different is that if we pass a law through Congress, if we pass a law through our state legislature, or through using the ballot initiative process, or at the local level, we say pass a law that prohibits Walmart from coming into our community. We could not be sued by Walmart for violating their 14th Amendment equal protection rights under the Constitution, because and discriminating against them because they don't have constitutional rights. And so we could actually use the amendment to pass legislation to really help support local businesses, for example. And you're right that the main reason why people incorporate when they have a small business is for that limited liability and the protection personally from what their company does, and that would not be affected by the amendment at all. And actually, it's part of what is so crazy about corporate personhood is that on one hand you're saying, I am not my corporation, I am separate from my corporation, therefore if the corporation has an oil spill and dumps toxic oil into the lake that we're in, I'm not personally responsible because I'm separate and I have limited liability for what the company does. But on the other hand, the company has all of my rights because the company is me, and my constitutional rights are infused into the corporation. And the somehow or other, the Supreme Court, and the somehow is because it suited the agenda of the class that the Supreme Court over the years has represented, but they have been able to construe logic such that you can have both of those two things that are the opposite existing at the same time, and that is the doctrine of corporate personhood. Heidi knows a constitutional candidate for whom she could reach out. That is awesome. Please do that, and also let us know so that we can help you and follow up and make sure that they come on board and could become a co-sponsor of our bill. In Maine, there is a petitioning effort. We the People Maine is an affiliate. Melinda in China, Maine. Oh, I've been to China, Maine. Yes, actually, We the People is an affiliate of Move to Amend. They're one of our partner affiliates. We have two categories of affiliates, regular affiliates and partner affiliates, and there's no distinction in terms of how we treat them, but we have that so that folks who are part of already existing organizations, whether they're chapters of other organizations or they're just part of a group like We the People Maine, which formed separate from Move to Amend, could also come on and be Move to Amend affiliates and would not need to lose their identity to do that. So, yep, they are a partner, and we're really excited about the work that they're doing in the state. So there may have been a couple other questions that I missed, but we're at 6:30. Is there anything else? Take a last call. Is there any other questions that folks have? You can put the next steps on here. Not seeing any new ones. So there is a survey that you'll be taken to at the end of the presentation, and it's going to take me a second to realizing that it's actually not configured properly, so I want to make sure that you get taken there. But there is a survey at the end, and you can indicate what you are interested in being involved in. If you have feedback for us on how this process went, then we definitely want to hear it. And then you can also always be in touch with us. Our email is info@movetoamend.org. And our phone number at our office is 707-269-0984. And we'd love to hear from you. And again, if you're looking to get started with a local group and there isn't one in your area and you want to start one up, we definitely want to help you do that. So be in touch with us so that we can offer you the resources that we have to help with that right away. And also, if there's a local group in your area and you're trying to reach them and you haven't been able to, let us know so that we can help you with that as well. And then if you indicate interest in particular projects that I've mentioned, then we'll make sure that you get updates about them and information about how to plug in with them as we launch them, whether the People's Movement Assemblies or the Pledge to Amend, which will really get more started over the late summer as we get into campaign season. And if you're not sure, err on the side of saying you're interested in more, and you can always opt out later if your schedule doesn't work, or if you find that there's actually another area that you more want to plug into later. So I think that's it. So I'm going to turn off the camera, and if you just hang tight for a second here, then I will make it so that that you'll be taken directly to the survey on your screen, and you don't need to click anywhere else. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and don't hesitate to be in touch. And let's work together to make this happen. I look forward to it, and any feedback that you have on this webinar as well, please let me know. Have a great night.
I don't see it there. There's somebody there.